friends. Welcome to Blooming in a Cage, a podcast for humans. I'm so glad that you decided to join with us tonight. I'm excited about tonight's show. I hope you had a great day. It was beautiful here. I rode in the truck with my husband earlier with the windows down the whole way. I felt like a dog wanting to stick my head out the window and just smell the air. I was so excited. Stood outside this afternoon and just soaked up the sun. I actually was sitting in the parking lot of the bank where my husband was in. I just closed my eyes and just sat in the sun. It's like seasonal depression. You forget that you have it until the sun comes out for a day. And then you're like, oh, wait, my soul, I needed this serotonin right here, this boost to my brain. So I am so happy that spring is on the way. And my daughter told me today that we're actually supposed to get snow maybe tomorrow or Friday, but it'll be a stupid wet spring snow like you have in New England, and then it'll be gone. And I really hope that we will have a beautiful early spring because my mind and body is so ready. I am ready for a weekend at camp with a cup of coffee, sitting in my outside chair, having something off the grill for breakfast, or going somewhere to get some French toast or something. I love French toast. What's your favorite breakfast food? I am a French toast girl. French toast with strawberries and whipped cream. Although I did recently have bananas and Nutella French toast. That was really good. I can't remember the name of the place that we went to, but it was really good. Anyways, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm going to bring in just a minute my friend James Page. James Page, this is my favorite picture. He says what happens at White River stays at White River, but Wayne said no, James, if there's pictures. So sorry to say, this is my friend James. James is the one sitting, as you can see, getting shaving cream by our camp president on his head, Greg Cushman. That was a good day. This is one of the family events that we do at White River. And that's kind of how I met James. And we're going to chit chat tonight about his new podcast called The American Dad? I believe, yes. Let's see. The All American Dad. So not just the American Dad, but the All American Dad. So anyways, I'm going to bring my friend James in to the pod. Let me just click on his mic here. Hello, James. Welcome to Blooming in a Cage. I can't hear you. Oh, there you are. I was like, wait a minute. Where's your sound? I got nervous for
just pretending to speak just to freak you out.
Okay. No, stop it. Don't do that. Wayne wants to know if you're ready to sing at camp with him again.
I am ready, but before we get going, I have to. What I actually typed, this was on your last live stream. I said, I guess what happens at camp doesn't stay at camp.
Oh, does it?
So
okay.
I'm fully aware what I'm signing up for.
It's not like Las Vegas, right? They say Vegas. It's not.
No.
Actually, usually that ends up on the public and somewhere being used in advertisements, I've found. I'll tell my dad. That's a good picture for the website.
Right, bring it on.
It's fine. So James Page, I was thinking, I met you and Stacy, what, almost 3 years ago?
We came to camp 2021.
Oh, really? It's been that long? Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
For sure. 100%.
2021. And you met a bunch of us crazy people that people on this podcast know that I probably talk about wherever every week of some sort. They're probably like, what is this place? It's hard not to. Yeah. So you came, you didn't know really. I mean, you knew Missy, right? My friend Missy Townsend. You guys had worked together or done worship together somewhere else. I feel
very
like
little.
Yeah, very little.
At the time. Now it's different, but you just invited me along and
well, she knew what she was doing. She knew.
Oh, for sure.
She knew what she was doing. So you actually didn't even know her. So this strange lady that you don't know invited you to come to a summer camp. Well, I think that's how scary movies start.
It was maybe my third time playing with her. Like we did something at the church she's at, and we hit it off really well. And I was ready to be done with music altogether. I thought that was my swan song. And she looks at me. She's like, "You're gonna be doing this for a long time, buddy." And I'm like, I don't want to. Break her confidence in her prophetic gift. No, she was absolutely right. And I remind her a lot. And I thank her for it too.
My dad says, hi, James. He's in here for a minute and then he's going to hop off early because he has an early meeting in the morning. He's an old guy, so he's got to get his beauty sleep.
Well, appreciate the shout out, Mr. Gant.
So yeah, she does have that way. And it's funny how my dad wrote a book about this, Makatanu, which is about intersections. And that's kind of what what you're telling me is that like God had an intersection for you to have, and you played a couple gigs with Missy, but you needed to hear something, and she was the person that was gonna kind of deliver that to you. And I think that's so cool how God does that. Like we think of, or like if the world probably looks at it as like random, right? But it wasn't random. It was by God's design that you guys were gonna connect, and she was gonna be able to say, God's got more for you, James. Um,
Yeah. And it was more than just a kind word. It was, she took me under her wing. She was very patient with me as I kind of worked through some of my, musician issues.
musician
Um,
stuff, right?
but no, and just the patience but also when I needed a stern talking to, she wasn't shy
Yeah, yeah,
because she's
and
Missy and she's amazing.
yeah, that's right. I hope she's in here
But
later.
it's all love,
Yeah.
and I've been able to reap the benefits of knowing
Nice.
her, so I'm very grateful for it.
So you came, didn't know what you were getting into, met a bunch of us crazy people, and and jumped in. I tell all the people like spring is coming. We actually were talking about White River last night. We had a board of directors meeting, and we were talking about some things that we're gonna have to get, fixed. It's springtime, right? But I was
Yep.
thinking, oh man, now I want it to be spring. Come on, summer, come on, summer. Even though White River happens at the end of summer, so it's like it's one of those things I'm looking forward to, but then I'm like, oh, summer's over. Right?
Yeah, but once
Yeah.
summer starts, okay, we know
I
where
know.
we're heading, so
We're
everything kind of
ready.
gears
We're
around it.
ready.
And
We're ready.
yeah,
So you're a musician by we're on here to talk about a podcast, but you are a musician. Are you a jack of all trades? I say like my brother Brian, who can pick up most things and play, or do you have a certain instrument that you're probably thinking, Robin, you know this. Yeah, but the people watching probably don't.
yeah. No, I'm similar to Brian. Only I'm like Brian on drums.
Yep.
The way he is on guitar, because like he's ridiculous
Yeah.
at guitar on
Don't
like
his
another
head's gonna
level.
be like this big.
Well, I can't lie,
Yeah.
but I'm when I have as a drummer, I'm more, I call it my show off instrument because I've been playing since I was 7, so I
Right,
got
right.
about 30 years under my belt,
Got it.
and that's not including every Sunday when I was 4 and 5 and 6 going to the drummer at church, whoever that might have been at the time, like teach me something, teach me something.
You
So
do
I was
something. Yeah.
pretty adamant about wanting to learn drums, and then junior high, I'm like, I want to do something else. And my dad showed me, like, he showed me drums, got me started, and kind of took off. Then he showed me guitar, gave me a few chords, and I kind of took it from there. So,
Yeah,
and I
2
just kind
very
of reverse
different instruments.
engineered
2 very
for other
different
instruments.
instruments, having people
Yeah.
in my life that play both. But
Uh-huh.
although percussion is like the strong one in our house, I
Uh-huh.
I tell everybody Brian only has his career because of me, because I actually took guitar lessons before him. James is like,
Yep.
"What? Who's that?"
Here we go.
I did. I took them, and then I found out like you had to practice and stuff, and I was like,
Yes.
"Yeah, no, that's not for me." We actually took lessons together, believe it or not. We had this old folk teacher. He played 6 string or 12-string acoustic, and like we're talking like James Taylor, Carolyn King, and then
Yep.
even more folky stuff. And he taught Brian and I together. And I just one day was like, you know what? Like, this is crap. Like, I'm not good. I'm like clearly not. And I don't know what I thought I was going to be overnight, but it required practice, and Brian just kept on, man.
Yeah.
He just, I think it's definitely one of those things. To be a musician is like a gift. Like you have people who work, like I know it's very hard work,
Mhm.
but I think you love it, and it's really is a form of art, which I think is why I'm drawn with it. I'm a very artistic person, but that was not for me.
It's
This
like me with drawing. It doesn't happen.
it just yeah,
And
it doesn't.
it frustrates me trying
Yeah,
to paint, draw, sculpt. I'm fascinated by it,
but you
but
just
like to draw even stick figures, kind of, buddy,
My
come
dad
on,
says
just.
my dad says he plays the radio. Does that count?
I
It
say it counts
it counts. It is one of those
more
things.
than.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying more than being awful and playing in public. But at
Yes.
least the radio, it's going to sound good.
That's great. At least it is. It depends on what station. I actually have to have an MRI done in a couple weeks, and I had one that I left. I just had a panic attack. I do not do well. Now we just thank the Lord for pharmaceuticals. But I went in and had this. MRI done, and you know how I don't know if anybody's never had one done. They usually ask you, it's very loud, so they'll ask you like, what kind of music do you want to listen to, and then you can listen to like a Spotify, can
Oh,
channel or
nice.
whatever. And so, because it just kind of cuts down the noise, and so the guy's like, what can you listen to? And I was like, how about like old? They listed off stuff, and I'm like, old country, like that's fine. At least maybe I'll like some of it. And they put on like pop, and I listened to Britney Spears for like 20 minutes. I say that's what gave me the panic attack, not.
I'm gonna say that's
I was like,
you're locked in a confined area.
listening to Britney Spears like for 20-25 minutes. I was like, I'm out of here. Get me out of here.
Yikes.
So you play music on a regular basis at your church?
Pretty much. That's why I did I did about 3 years straight playing. I was in 2 cover bands.
Yeah.
I say 2.5 because the third one was like a acoustic, duo, where I kind of like I'd play rhythm and a lot of background vocals for a buddy of mine.
Nice.
But he had a full band. I helped kind of like by playing drums.
Sure.
I found a bassist, so we made a full band. Did it for about 3 years straight. COVID happens, and I didn't realize how burnt out I was and how like checked out. Like I was just all my mental effort went to that, whatever. And so that's a whole story in and of itself. But when COVID happened, I just felt this tug from the Lord telling me like, this is your last year. And I was like, thank you, Lord. I'm like, oh, wow. I guess that's different. Because before my whole life revolved around music. It was my identity and everything. It was kind of more of a stronghold.
So God was leading you in a different way.
Yeah.
I think
but so now it's just.
I think that happened to a lot of people during COVID, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Definitely a shift.
But I play church because on top of those bands, I was playing church every Sunday. I had to learn the whole dial it back a little, James, like everything in moderation. Yeah. So now it's just do stuff at the church, and I love it.
Oh, Margaret Dobbins, our friend Margaret Dobbins is here. She said, "Oh, well, Margaret, we'll be praying for your headache." She said she's got a headache, so she can't stay long. We'll just pray it goes away. The soothing sounds of me and James' voice we'll ask Jesus to take care of that headache.
Yes, we will.
So, James, you play music on a regular basis, and you have been involved, obviously, in church ministries in various ways. I've done a lot with you.
Yeah,
we started summer camp, a little bit, and some other adventures. So, what about this All-American Dad? How did that come across? And tell me a little bit about that podcast, which I do have here. I'm going to put up while we're chit-chatting for a minute, your YouTube channel, if anybody is interested.
Cool.
So there you go. So tell me a little bit about this All-American Dad and how the Lord kind of prompted that on you.
So I'd had this because I'm the personality type that wants to do everything. I see it on TV, or if it's something I'm like, I want to try that.
So QVC would be bad for you. Like the Home Shopping Network, like you find something you want to buy just to try it. That would be
more like I bet I could be the guy on there.
Oh, got it.
Doing with the sweat, learning all how to talk to people, in front of the camera and do all that. Or you see a guy learns how to be a race car driver. I'm like, I bet I could do that. And I'd want to. Like I'm kind of a hobby guy.
Yeah.
And there's a few podcasts that I really like. So I want to do podcasts just almost for the sake of doing one, which it's good, but it's not enough to start one because you need something to sink your teeth into. Sure. And for a while, I thought I wanted to do a political thing, which isn't out of the question, maybe down the road.
Sure.
But after, I think it was November, I'm like, I really felt this nudge because I know the culture war is imminent and there's such an attack on the family and men and children. And I think, November, this past November, like, I started to get this more of an idea, less of an idea, more of like, you start now, kid, get to work.
Yeah.
But I was looking for that sense of, okay, I was thinking politics.
Sure.
But I had this name stuck in my head, the All-American Dad. Because my understanding, like if you're an All-American athlete, like, you're the peak, you're at the top.
Sure.
I'm All-American. I don't really fully understand. That's kind of my understanding of it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, All-American Dad, like just being a father is huge.
Yeah. My dad says you're reading his mail.
Well, your dad, Pastor Gant, his messages along with Josephus are huge, huge seeds planted, and that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they help me see, okay, yeah, culture war is being lost, and it's on us to do something about it, or sit back, but don't complain about it if you're going to sit on your duff and do
Right,
nothing about it.
right.
So I can at least, there's a microphone. I have people, I can let them tell their stories.
Yep.
And help. We advertise the dumbest crap on TV and social media. Why not advertise fatherhood for what it actually is?
And I think
Don't be dishonest.
yeah, right. And I think it's so important, James, because I think, oh, here's our friend Jennifer Cushman. She loves us. Hi, Jen. We love you too. One of the things I think, and last week I was talking about feminism, which I think is a cool thing that God connected these two shows to be right after each other, is you're right. There is an attack on the family, and there's an attack on fathers and men in general. And it's like it's almost become taboo to be married to one woman and have children with that woman and be faithful and be a good father and pick your kids up from school. And, like that's become the not normal thing, to the point that now when you are that, it's like you're a fish swimming upstream in a pond of really mean other like piranha fishes. Do you
Yeah.
see? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a man. Shocking news. I'm not a man. And I can only see what I see as a woman, but what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think I want to pronounce his name right. I saw a short. This was like a year or two ago of, I think it's Vodi Bachman, something like that.
Yep.
He was talking about the 11th commandment and how it doesn't exist.
Okay.
There is no "thou shalt be nice." That's not in the 10 Commandments. And what I'm seeing is trying to, I guess, push back in a way that's nice and doesn't offend people. It's not possible.
No.
Not saying you go out of your way to be mean,
but
at the same time, I say that the main pushing point, the straw that broke the camel's back was, it was the transgender issue.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is pushing kids down that road.
Yeah.
And encourage them to transition before they can even drive a car.
Right.
Before they can vote, before they can, have all the adult rights.
Get a tattoo, or get a tattoo, or get their ears pierced, or drink alcohol, or buy a pack of cigarettes.
But the fact that there are court cases fighting on behalf of, removing kids from their home if their parents refuse to let them transition, like that's a real thing happening. And I'm like, all right, you can't fight that and be nice.
No, you can't.
Not be mean to transgender individuals or people that identify as transgender.
Right.
They're struggling.
Yep.
And encouraging them to embrace a path that has a 50% suicide rate.
Yeah.
With or without the surgery.
Right. And it doesn't, this with or without surgery. And I think that the difference here, James, as I'm hearing is an adult making an adult decision is very different than a pubescent child.
Where they're already feeling awkward about their body.
Right. Where they haven't even fully developed, and that's something that I think if we had if we had more men, more fathers who were protectors of their children, this would be a non-issue.
I believe so. I mean,
when it comes to children specifically.
Yes. There'd be no need for it, because if their identity is set correctly and not in superficial things, then like you might be a boy, like no, or either way, there'd be no lack or need for that sense of belonging if fathers step up,
And really what we're seeing now, what we're living in our society is a result of many years of absent fathers, and if you look at even some statistics about children in the homes of single moms, absentee fathers, divorced parents, it is astonishing how many of those are criminals, just criminals. That's the truth, is that most hardened criminals that are in jail come from an absentee, abusive, or lack of a father figure in their life.
Yeah.
Most people that are dealing with transgender issues have either been fed that lie, which is not a popular thing, but I have somebody that I know that if their child came out as trans, that would be like the greatest victory they've ever experienced,
Mm.
sadly. And that has to do with the parent. And that's why I always say, like, if you're transgender yourself, you probably are dealing with something spiritually, or biologically. That's a real thing. But if you're a parent that's cheering on a child, you're really deranged. That is, and I think that you're right. What you're saying is that I kind of experienced that this year too, where there's only so much you can, like, the only word I can think is like pussyfoot around without saying, oh, here it is. My dad says 90%
Mhm.
of homeless and runaway children are from fatherless, 32 times the average. 85% of children who show behavior disorder come from fatherless, 20 times the average.
Yep.
And that is the thing. So I love that. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, so I mean, for the fatherlessness,
Yeah.
I realized that one of the aha moments was if the fatherhood issue is a political issue. If we get men back in the home, stepping up and raising their kids and being involved the way they should be, um, it's not a race issue.
No.
Because the skin color doesn't matter. That statistic.
Yep.
It's is the dad in the home.
Right.
But also, here's the other side of the coin. What if you're beyond your childbearing years, or or you're single? I'd love to have your dad on and chat with him what it's like
Yeah.
to have someone take him under his wing and
Yeah.
help him overcome the statistic that was working against him.
Right.
Because I'd say he
he overcame
did
it.
pretty well. He has quite a legacy.
Right.
Some amazing children who all have
But
families, who have taken people under their wing. Some have adopted, fostered.
But
To
unfortunately,
show
James,
that,
there's lots of them that have never had a father like that are
yeah,
the statistic because of a lack of good men.
yeah,
There's no other way to put about it, is to good men. I had a
mhm,
conversation with my husband a while ago, and I said something about, I wish they could just see you, that you're a good man, and he actually said to me, they don't want a good man. And like that's the unfortunate thing about society, is that society doesn't reward good men. There's the, like you were saying, it is a political issue, because it's like, if you think about so many, how men have been villainized in the
yeah,
media and in politics. They're looked at as people who are only looking for women for sexual objects, only looking to impregnate women and leave them, with the responsibility of. And for some of that, it is very true for the demographic of men. It's very true, but it's not true in the sense of what God has designed a man to be, and what there are a good amount of men that are good, but they're too afraid to speak up
yeah.
and be a good man because of the repercussions of that whole, which I would love your take on the term toxic masculinity.
I'm glad you brought that one up, Robin, because it dawned on me. I'm like, masculinity isn't toxic. Weak men is toxic,
Right.
and a weak man will take advantage of someone to better himself. True masculinity will lay his life down and sacrifice for those, because they're protectors.
Right.
That's true masculinity. And I draw that from the Bible. So I have a very
Right.
biblical, I have a biblical worldview. It's no secret.
Shocker.
And it's like, but I'm kind of in that, not in a trying to be relevant way, but I don't know how I want to label the podcast. Is it a Christian podcast? Is it not?
Right.
My thing is I want to have people from all walks of life, all
Sure.
different beliefs on, and have conversations, not debates.
Yeah.
And let the listener determine what resonates with them and explain, this is why Christianity works for me.
Right.
This is why I see it the way I do, and give someone the floor to be able to say, well, this is why I disagree or agree, or this is how I see it, and
Right.
show that we can all have conversations, not
Sure.
have to fight and bicker.
And I think
But
that,
also
go ahead.
stand your ground.
Right.
There's certain things that are not negotiable with me. You'll never convince me that it's okay for a child to chemically or physically castrate themselves
Right.
before they can actually make a conscious decision, not knowing what they're doing, and also make them dependent upon medical care the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
You see the money grab that's there, because it's very expensive.
It's very expensive.
And so you want to rob the high ground and say that so that's a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
If you're 18, whatever, I care about the person. I don't think it's the right choice, but they have the right.
We live in America. so you are free to do as an adult. Right. And as a child, it's one of those things that I actually look at. My dad said, follow the money. It's true. It's a huge market. And I think that our friend Michael McCosker is in here too. I don't want to miss by. Hello, Mr. McCosker. I think that part of what the term toxic masculinity has been used, my own personal take on, is it's a tool to make masculinity harmful.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's to pacify the man. Actually, and it actually leads into why you have the whole mindset of men who come out as homosexual, or men who come out as transgender, and leave their wives and their children, because there is no reward for a good father in the world system. Because it's like you see the family dynamic even on television. I always use television as a marker in movies, because we learn about our society, right? We know art often imitates life. And if you look at television, just take sitcoms alone, most fathers are viewed as buffoons. They're the joke of a sitcom, or if you look at like drama, they're the perverts. They're the predators. They're never, I dare anybody tell me if you find one. Send me a show that shows fathers being fathers the way that God intended them to be. Because society, it's like it's unacceptable for a father to say to a child, no, you can't do that. No, you can't go there. No, I don't want you to be with that. Don't go out with that person. No, you can't dress that way. No, you can't pretend you're a dog or a cat or the opposite sex. I think that the media and a lot of media's results of our politics, what we hear in the news is what we believe is true. That's just the way it is. You read something, it's like I saw something today about, they showed a picture of the astronaut in space, and like, oh, she got a tan. He did her hair before. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then you have to believe everything you see on the media is not truth, and everything that the world determines is not truth. And I think that what you're doing, James, is highlighting that being a dad is actually cool.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's a fulfilling job, and hopefully the conversation you have can lead to other men being willing, because I think a lot of that it's like you're afraid to be and I'm not speaking for myself, obviously I'm not a man, but what I see is it's like, oh, I don't want to say anything, or I don't want to speak up. Or if you do, say for social media's sake, you have a father that says something, I'd never let my child do that, then they're just blasted and vilified that they're terrible people. Do you see that perspective as a man?
See,
like that you're vilified for being masculine by.
I mean, I've been vilified as a straight white conservative Christian. I found out, I think it was 2015, that I was a neo-Nazi racist bigot. So I've been kind of sorting through that since then. But no, it was, that was around the time where, I started discovering some of the podcasts I follow and listen to. I'm like, where are they getting this? And again, the media's pumping this stuff. And yes, I have felt that.
Yeah.
And never really knew, because I don't want to just trigger people and just say things just to poke their buttons.
Yeah. Right.
Either. So I didn't know really how to shift it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to say what I think, how I feel about things, and people can take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing I have a little more of an edge about me, not really backing down from confrontation as much anymore. Yeah. But I'm not doing it for the sake of having an edge and being a jerk. It's just, I got things I believe in, and someone needs to hear it. And if they agree, great. If they don't, that's fine. That is what it is.
Yeah.
Like I'll put at least put this point out there about my my perception about the transgender issue.
Yeah.
I don't want to vilify anyone that has that or
Right.
struggles
Right.
with that. All right. My perspective is an identity crisis.
Right.
Same thing with homosexuality from about, they identify as something.
Right.
They identify with the type of individuals they want to sleep with.
Yeah.
If that's your identity is your foundation of yourself,
Yep.
who you are. That's pretty unstable ground in my mind.
And I think a lot of people who deal with those issues, I was actually discussing this with somebody recently. A lot of people that I've experienced that are dealing with those types of issues are really dealing with abandonment. They're really dealing
Mhm.
with abandonment on who they are as an individual. I've encountered lots of young people that are dealing with crisis with the identity, and what they're really dealing with is exactly what you said, that they haven't never had a stable home to have the identity and who God wants them to be. So they're just trying to make up somebody to be accepted and to be loved. Like, let me just try to find someone, let me change my name, let me change my sex, let me change the way I dress, how I present myself in order to be accepted. And unfortunately, you'll never be accepted by the world the way you will by your heavenly Father and how he's speaking life to you. And I think that that is a result of the fruit of not having fathers be fathers, because so
Mhm.
much of your identity is founded for men and women both by their fathers. For a woman, at least for me, I mean, my dad says here, James, that you're not going to speak truth without pushing buttons. uh,
No,
so
no.
I think that, for a woman, most of the time they joke and say that you marry a man like your father, and what that really means is that's your first example of how a man should treat a woman, is your father.
Mhm.
And for a man, it's how your father treats women is how you learn how to treat a woman. And so if
Yep.
those kind of, and
Yep.
those are such foundational truths about who you are, and if you don't have a father speaking those, the statistics show what happens in society when there aren't good fathers. And I think that, I mean, like us here, I know that you've been praying, right, for revival to come to New England. We are both
Mhm.
New England people, and the
Yep.
ground is dry, and we live in the most liberal place in the United States, New England. You won't find anywhere that's like New England. Like, you go other places in the United States, and you're like, wait, people are that way? Like, they're not, and even reading the news, and you see the way people interact on social media, and it's crazy to me. And I think that what I have seen God is doing in New England is he's starting to have the church become the church again and be who God has called to me. And I can identify with being afraid of, not afraid, I don't want to use that word. Maybe timid is the better word, to
Mm.
kind of draw a line in the sand on certain areas and speak out against them without worrying about the repercussions from people who disagree, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that is why what you're endeavoring to do is so important, because one passion of mine is when we're praying for revival and you go to any sort of church meeting and there's an altar call, and I will dare anybody to if you can find a church, tell me, because I've never been to one where it is not primarily women at the altar
Mm.
and men are sitting in their chairs. I know you have the perspective of probably being on the stage most of the time, but here's my brother who apparently is nice to you, but not nice to me. That's fine. That's
Well,
a pet name.
I'm glad he's in because a huge shout out goes to him. That logo you popped up on the screen, he
Yep.
designed that. Like he took because I love the black and blue color scheme on
Yep.
anything. So
Yep.
that's kind of what I went with.
Yep.
And it's the All American Dad. He had the foresight to make it red, white, and blue.
There you go. My
He also
daughter
made a
prays.
killer intro.
Yeah.
So
I can't
Andrew,
wait
I
to see.
can't thank you enough.
He's a
Thank
good
you, thank
dad.
you, thank you.
He's a
He's
guy who
amazing.
has no problem drawing the line in the sand.
Mhm.
But I think that that's a thing that I think that I've seen that I think is important for the church and for what God's going to do specifically New England, because I personally believe there's many other that revival is going to begin here in New England. It's where our nation was founded. And I believe that that is on purpose, and for God's, that most of the great revivals that have started in our nation started here. And so I believe that, but I believe that the one of the huge key pieces is seeing men return to the role of fatherhood. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, that was again because with Pastor Gant and our mutual friend, Mr. Josephus Housey, who those guys have like. The more I reflect, I'm like, wow, God really used them to instill this in me, woke me up to the responsibility of being a father, but not just the responsibility, the honor of like, wow, I have an opportunity.
Right.
I've been given a gift, and to not don't waste it. And putting their wisdom into practice, it had an effect on my family life.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was like, not really. No,
Yeah.
it wasn't just you suck. It's okay. This is where if you tweak these things, it's going to have, they made it possible.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Right.
Ways I could step up as a man, as a husband, as a father. And oh my gosh, wow, people need to hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it is, as I reflect, my daughter Grace is in here. We just became grandparents. And I will say this, you're in a,
Congratulations.
I know, I can't believe it. I'm that old. How old are your kids? Remind me again.
I got a 12-year-old and an almost 14-year-old.
Wow.
Boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. So the thing that I can say now is like, I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago, and I was like, wow, I'm 50 and I'm a grandmother. Like, and I have 2 adult children and one that's 15 going on 16. Like, the time that we have with our children where we are some of the most important voices in their life. I mean, my parents are still very important voices in my life, but like where you're able to pour into them on a regular basis goes by so fast. I heard someone say that you get 18 summers with your kids. And I think it's actually less than that, because like Riley and I were already talking like, he's got, he's going to be working a lot this summer. And like, he's working on getting his driver's license. And they're like, it's gone like that. Like, and we don't have as much time with our kids to have those kind of important conversations and being able to pour into them before you're like trying to, like I told you earlier, texting my son, are you coming home for supper? What are you doing after youth group? Like it's the time that you get with your kids is very short. It's not as long as what you think it is, because if you don't get them early on, you'll lose them for like a long time or forever. It is my personal belief, because I've seen it happen in a lot of people's lives. I am not the Crip Reaper.
Sorry, if you saw me laughing, I was reading the chat. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, it's fine. He's so nice. Don't worry, I'll see payback. I know. See what has happened when you have beautiful men in your life. That's toxic masculinity, Andy. Okay, stop it. We were talking about that. No, there's no problem there with him having talk. And I actually think, from a woman's perspective, if you're a woman, seeing a man who's masculine and protective is actually very attractive. Yeah, go ahead.
I was talking with a friend today over coffee.
Over coffee?
Literally. And it kind of dawned on me. I don't know if I probably already heard it and I just remembered, but it seems like if a woman's controlling in a relationship, I think it's because they don't trust the man to take the charge.
Yep.
He hasn't proven that he can step up and own it.
Yep.
But if he does, then it shows like, no, I got this.
Yeah.
Then they can kind of give the reins back. So I don't think women inherently want to be as domineering as they are, but they don't, or at least in many cases, it's
women want to feel secure.
Yeah. And if you haven't proven that you can be secure, then why would they give you that trust? So that was, I'm like, wow, if I step up, or if men step up, then they can again provide what's needed.
My brother said, if you don't raise your kids, somebody else will. True. And that's my dad used to always tell us, you don't learn it at the neighbors. And I think that for me as a woman, like my husband, most of the people on here tonight, but if you're not watching, he's a very protective man. Like I never not feel safe with him. Okay, that's what
awesome.
I'll say. But recently, and this is what I'll say, like about recently, for a lot of women, it's like I can say that I grew up with a very secure dad, right? You know, that I knew
Yep.
I was going to be safe. We went to a lot of places, did a lot of crazy things, but I never felt unsafe. But for a lot of women, they didn't experience that. So I think that's some perspective is their husbands haven't even or stood up, or they have a wound where they don't feel okay with letting their husband lead. Like maybe they had a father example that wasn't like that. Um,
Yeah.
or their husband quite literally isn't stepping up. And I think that when you do make a woman feel secure, toxic masculinity doesn't exist because it actually is. Sorry, guys, we're grown-ups. It's actually a turn on to see your husband be masculine and be a man.
Yeah.
I have, like I said, a few weeks ago, we run our food pantry, and I had a individual who was high on a substance. They were acting very erratic. It's a pretty common thing for us at our food pantry, unfortunately, and just in our neighborhood. And I was outside by myself signing people in, and I turned to one of my customers and said, "Could you ask my husband to come outside?" And our friend Mike said, "I found out what Wayne's like when he knows his wife needs him." It was like out the door, no jacket. It was winter, and to me, that's like the most reassuring thing to say. Whew. And I know that even with my children, I've experienced like, oh, it's okay, Dad's here, you know. And that's not something I guess everybody can relate to, but it is what men are supposed to be.
Yeah.
How God has designed them to be the protector of their home and their family.
You
And
alluded in sorry
go ahead.
in your I listened to the live stream last week. I popped in just to say hello, but then like the
Yep.
next day I listened. It was phenomenal, and I recommend everybody go back and listen because again, yeah, it was on feminism, and you pointed to the fact that it was kind of warranted back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just because like what are we gonna do? Let's screw with men. Like no, there was abuse going on. There's people being taken advantage of.
Yep.
So it didn't happen just because,
Right.
and I'm realizing after listening to that, I'm like, that might be my biggest opposition is the feminist movement.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing like if I can encourage men to step up and be real men, I don't have to fight and argue and belittle anyone that's embodying the feminist movement,
No.
male or female. It's like, no, let's just show them the real thing and they'll want that.
And that's very
Or they
true.
won't.
But that's very
But
true. I do think that when you see the right example inherently in your spirit, whether you're a believer or not, you're drawn to that example because of God's design. You know, and I think that that's important. If we look at the garden, which we talked about last week, but if you look at the garden and the way that God designed it, the job, I mean, first of all, the Lord gave Adam a wife before he gave him a job, or a job before he gave him a wife, like very important. But the job that the Lord gave him was to have dominion. And dominion
mhm,
really means control.
yep.
And a lot of people have that's where feminists, oh, they're losing their mind right now. I don't want a man to control me. But really what that is like, and I'll use my husband as an example. When we go somewhere, we went to Walt Disney World in November for my son's 21st birthday. And when we're in a big crowd, he's like, "Where are you?" And is he trying to control me? No, he's trying to protect me. And that's what's operating in dominion is protecting the environment from being attacked. And I think that because men have not protected the environment, the family has been attacked
Yep.
because they fundamentally not done the job that God gave them to do to protect them.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
I would.
Yeah.
But
And
then case in point on the leading by example, a big part of this podcast against some of the seeds being sown. I know all pastors are just money grubbing bastards after your wallet.
yes.
That's no,
Yeah.
there that we have those, but
Yeah.
there was I mean, I'm just gonna name names because he's amazing. But the first year camp where Josephus was there, I just watched him and I was blown away by one thing in particular. There was a few things, but the way he would engage with people, like not during the meeting, not like it was just eating lunch, he'd sit down with people that there's no material gain from these people. He's not going to get a speaking engagement because the kid is 12 with ADHD.
Right.
But you can just see, you can't fake this. The way he was asking him questions and just digging into what makes him tick, he was drawing the gold out of him.
Right.
Or her, or whoever, or whoever. It was just something he was passionate about. So I'm like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to ask someone questions and actually listen. And I went to someone who, again, like seemed a little socially awkward.
Yeah.
So people weren't mean and like, I don't like him. It was, he had to be engaged.
Right.
But I asked him a question. And I just started starting a conversation. Then I asked him, like, what's one of your hobbies? He goes, I like to travel. And I'm like where to? He starts naming country after country after country. I'm like,
dude,
I haven't even been to Canada. And you've been to like all these amazing places. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Like, what was your favorite? I start asking these questions and like you see him light up. But I'm the one getting blessed. He was getting blessed just by me asking, what's your story?
Yeah. Yeah. Margaret says the thing, I don't want to miss this. Margaret said her husband puts gas in her car. Again, not that we know Margaret can't pump the gas for herself, but it is very masculine.
It's nice
to do those things. Right. It's the things. But you're right. Engaging with people as a man who I think as men a lot are the providers. It's like it's engaging one-on-one with your children or with other spiritual children. It's like it takes effort, it takes time, and it takes engagement. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Incredibles. My kids, Noah loved that movie. We must have watched it like,
where is my super suit?
We've watched that movie way too many times. And I pick on, so I have a collagen defect. So my kids like quite literally call me Elastigirl because I can stretch my limbs out. So when we were kids, the kids, Noah probably watched that. I can't even tell you, like every day, Mom, watch it again. But one of the things that I joke with Wayne is like, if he's busy and he's not paying attention, one of the kids comes in and they're trying to get his attention, I'll say, engage, Bob, engage. Because the whole team, when they're at the dinner table, because that's it is that there's fathers who are not engaged with their children. They don't even know what's happening in their house. They don't know, what apps their kids are on. Let's just be real. Like all those kinds of things that are protective. And if you're not engaged as a father with your children and your wife, your life will easily blow up and you'll be standing back going, what happened? Well, you were not engaged with your family. You were somewhere else. And really what that is making something else a bigger priority than your family.
Yeah.
And
that was 2020 in a nutshell. I realized I had a highly stressful job and I was at the tail end of it. I was, but also doing all the bands and then playing church every Sunday. You think there was much emotional
availability?
All the bandwidth was zapped. I didn't blow up and yell and scream and hit anybody, but I just was emotionally not present. Or my mind was thinking of what are other songs we could cover, or I want to start another. I was so everywhere else and not present. And once everything shut down, I was like, okay, we're resetting. It's family first. It's Jesus, family, then whatever is left over goes to me. But like, I'm not getting this time back.
Right.
It's not happening. And it was already going fast. So I'm like, if I blow this time on myself and what I want to do, then I'm going to regret it. And what a shallow way to go on with life. I wanted a family for a reason.
My friend Mary Stromberg taught me this. Shout out Mary if you're listening, because I have stole it. She told me one time that, and it was somebody in her life that had said it to her, and it has like stuck with me, that the only thing you can take to heaven with you is your children. And I was like, it's so true. And it's not just your physical children. Obviously you can take spiritual children. I have lots of people that they're, my son-in-law, Benjamin, called me mom before he was my son-in-law, before he even dated my daughter, right? Like these spiritual children that we have, these disciples that we come alongside with, those children that you're fathers to that don't have fathers, and I think that's an important thing to know that the only things you can take to heaven are your children. That's it.
That's
You know,
so good.
everything else turns to dust. You know,
Yep.
all these treasures, all these bands, all these jobs, all these hobbies, all the shows you've been binged watched after you got home from work to just zone out when you could have played a board game with your kid, or you know, my son wants me to play Fortnite with him. I'm terrible at that. Harry Potter, though, I can do that one. I can fly. But
There you go.
it's something that will be gone quickly, and for a lot of people, most people dealing with trauma, I deal with so many individuals at our food pantry who are dealing with lifelong generational curses that could have been avoided had they had a godly father and mother in their home.
Yeah.
And now they're spending their adult life trying to get over trauma using methods like, which I'm a big, I'm not one to shy away from therapy and all those kinds of things, whatever you have to do to heal your soul. But
Yeah.
therapy will not bring deep healing from an absentee father. Having a spiritual father and having a relationship with your heavenly father is the only thing to heal the wound, and so many use medication, alcohol, porn addiction, all those things, dinner, identity issues. Those are the band-aids that most of us put on for not having a healthy relationship with our father. That's it, which results in not a healthy relationship with our mom, because if dad's not present, then everything's on mom, and she's trying, and I hate the term, we're like, I have to be mom and dad. No. And I'm not discounting single moms, but I'm saying your children need a father. Whether that's you can't make a husband come home if he's in his own sin, but allowing a man who's a good man to come into your children's life. My brother says the father role must be filled with the question of what is it filled with? And that's true. Is unfortunately, like he said before, someone will raise your child if you're not. And if you're not filling that role of a godly father, somebody else will fill the role of the father.
Mm-hmm. True.
Well, our night is almost up, James. So tell us, are you having regular shows on a regular basis? People can head over to your YouTube channel. Are you still looking for fathers to hit you up and say, James, let me come on and talk to you?
I have a few kind of in the till here.
Nice.
And then once I'm ready to kind of open it up more, I'll kind of share a way to contact.
Sure.
I'm just ironing out some bugs. I'm in my basement, so sometimes there's some the noise.
That's all right.
I'm learning. So I'm very early on, but I could sit and be in analysis paralysis and never started it. So I'm just going, making improvements along the way. But I recorded one Monday. I'm done editing.
I relate to that very much.
Yeah, but I have some kind of lined up.
Nice, good.
And then I might try to see if I could swing out to Brattleboro, because there's a few of you out there. I'd like to, like Wayne.
Boy. Wayne, shout out Wayne. I know. I actually said, Andy, that James needs to meet Stoner. So Stoner, we'll tag Andy. You tag Stoner in this. Stoner, that means you need to come to White River, okay? Because our friend Jeremy Stoner loves the dad jokes. So when I saw your Many Mondays, I know he probably could send you a book full of dad jokes, because
Many Mondays.
He's got a whole plethora of really terrible bad dad jokes. I mean, they're just really bad. But I'm gonna put this up here again if you want to check out what James has up right now on YouTube. That's his YouTube channel.
Did I spell it wrong?
I don't think so. No, I linked it.
That's
from your YouTube channel.
So I spelled it wrong on my YouTube. I got to fix that.
Hey, well, that's all right. People can still find you. The link is still going to work. Yes. Oh, yes. Jeremy has 6 kids. So we're trying to convince Jeremy to come to White River. So we'll make him
a couple things I have planned, though. Okay. I do want to do a stretch of interviewing single moms, just to make sure this isn't men are superior, men are better.
Yeah.
It's just it's more men need to step up.
Yeah.
That's more the, but I want to interview single moms, because they're superheroes. It's no easy task. But I also have a few interviews of men that have no biological kids.
Love
but
it.
one in particular has his own framing company, and he takes drug addicts under his wing, and they get delivered, they get set free of drug addiction. And that now those people are starting to replicate and multiply.
That's bearing
So
fruit.
his
Bearing
wife
fruit.
said Alec has many children, none of them blood related.
It's funny that the word of God tells us to be fruitful and multiply, but there's lots of way to produce fruit. It's not just from your loins. Sometimes it's from
Yep.
your heart. And if I was to sit back of how, I have 3 biological children, but I have many, many more spiritual children who, every now and again, and some of those are parents and have their own children. Some are still single and looking for their partner, and it's not uncommon to say, "Mom, Dad, like I need this, I need that." And it is it's like I say, my brother who's adopted children, I say that it's like you love your children. I love my birth children, but there is another special bond that comes with someone, your chosen family, those people that you come alongside. And single moms sometimes need people to pick them, and come
Yeah.
alongside them and help them do life, because it is hard, and to help purge on wherever dad is, to step up and know that his kids need him. So I love that so much, James. I thank you so much for coming on tonight, and I look forward to seeing more content. And I'm happy to send you people. Hey, you should talk to this guy. Hey, you should talk to this guy.
Please. I already friend requested Stoner. So
Stoner, oh good, Jeremy Stoner.
So.
He's a good one. There's our friend Missy Townsend.
Missy.
Missy Townsend. I told him he needed to reply to your text. Okay, I fully will shame James. I was talking to Missy earlier tonight. She said, "Hey, tell that jerk." No, she didn't say that. She would never say that. I would say that, but she would. tell him to reply to my text.
I love you dearly, Missy.
She does. He actually, if you go back, Miss, because I know you had a masseuse tonight moment. We're praying for Missy's back. Her back is dealing with some stuff. Thank you. My husband says great show. He loves you.
Thank you, Wayne. Can't wait to have you on, buddy. We
love you too, Missy. And anytime you want to book a gig where we can get together, I'll be the roadie. But I appreciate what you're doing. I love the heart that you have for people, and I know you and I will have another cup of coffee together around a picnic table and talk. Me and James are good for chit chat more. I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I got stuff to do. And Missy's ringing the bell saying it's practice time. Let's go. All right. James, thank you so much. You can hang out right there. I'm going to sign off and get out of here. All right, guys. Thank you so much. See you next week. Same